Well, I want to take a few minutes now and give you a top-level snapshot of CCU, who we are, what we're about. I want to share with you some recent successes. I want to tell you about two of our students. I want to give you a sense of where we're going in the years ahead. CCU students engage in a liberal arts curriculum, a classical model of education that insists that we're not simply meant to be productive workers, but humans who must know how to live well. Liberal arts are the liberating arts. They free students to see connections between the Bible and Shakespeare, between international business and psychology, between theology and communications. And seeing these connections prepares our students for the 21st century world, to affect it, to engage with it, to see how it works, and ultimately to change it for the good. And with faith integrated in every class, students not only see the connections to other disciplines, but they're encouraged to question what God thinks about literary theory or microbiology, about what the Creator thinks about contemporary political issues or ethical business practices. So with that in mind, let me tell you more about the facts of CCU. CCU was founded in 1914 as the Denver Bible Institute. We have over 16,000 alumni in Colorado, across the United States, and around the world. And I want to take just a minute, this wasn't part of my planned remarks, but I think it's very important. If you are an alumnus of Colorado Christian University or one of our legacy schools, Rockmont, Western Bible, Denver Bible Institute, would you please stand where you are so we can recognize you? Alumni, would you stand? That is fantastic. Good representation of our alumni here in this room. We have 7 campuses located throughout Colorado, and in the last 2 years, we've awarded over $16 million in scholarships to our students. This academic year, in our traditional undergraduate school, our College of Undergraduate Studies, we had over 1,000 students. First time in the history of the school. We had over 4,000 students in our College of Adult and Graduate Studies, for a total of over 5,000 students for the first time in the history of the university at Colorado Christian University. Our average class size, 17 students. We have 46 full-time faculty members at the College of Undergraduate Studies. Our student athletes compete in NCAA Division II, as well as NCCAA. We have 53 majors at the College of Undergraduate Studies and 38 minors. Last year, the American Council of Trustees and Alumni took a survey of 1,070 schools, colleges and universities across the country, and they looked at their core curriculum and they graded each one of those schools a letter grade from A to F. And of 1,070 schools, only 20 schools, less than 2% of all the schools that they looked at received the letter grade A. And Colorado Christian University was one of those 20 schools. Two schools in Colorado, Colorado Christian University and the Air Force Academy, received an A. We're very proud of that. CCU was named a top conservative college in 2012 by the Young America's Foundation. Last month, our CCU debate team won the National Christian College Forensics Invitational in their second year as a team. This last year, our athletes won the Sportsmanship Cup for the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference. That's the 4th time they've won that in the last 6 years. CCU students were honored as Activists of the Year at the American Israel Public Affairs Committee just a month or so ago. They were awarded for their outstanding work advocating for Israel. Hugh Hewitt broadcast live from our campus just over a week ago. We had a number of our CCU students, we had the president, all on air, broadcasting to over 2 million people across our country, talking about the inner works of Colorado Christian University. And today, as a matter of fact, right about now, there are a number of CCU students at the KNUS 710 radio station here in Denver with Dennis Prager, participating with him on his live radio show. And of course, he'll be with us here in just over an hour. We've already talked about the record enrollment at CCU. Ron, Rex talked about the incredible success rate that we've had in student employment placement in the last 2 years. And my numbers are way off. 116 students. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers on that. The numbers that Ron shared with us were staggering, Ron, in terms of the projection going up in the placement of our students. This last year, we had 116 students and 23 faculty and staff on 14 global mission trips, and this year we anticipate that we'll have more than that participating. So what's the mission of CCU? It's to cultivate knowledge and the love of God in a Christ-centered community where learners and scholars with enduring commitment to the integration of exemplary academics, spiritual formation, and engagement with the world. Well, what is that about? A truly Christian education is about the integration of faith and learning. Education at CCU is focused on developing the whole person, intellectually, professionally, spiritually. We believe students should consider how their faith will and currently does impact the way they live and the way they work. Education at CCU means more than solely listening to lectures, taking exams, writing papers, and reading textbooks, although all of that happens, and it's quite intense, as Dean Gary Ewan said earlier, and all of our business students will attest to, and all the students in our other schools. But at CCU, our faith impacts the educational experience both inside and outside the classroom. As part of fulfilling our mission, CCU has adopted, at the direction of the Board of Trustees, 13 strategic objectives. And these serve as a guiding compass for our university. I want to talk about just one today. Strategic objective number 8 happens to be one of my favorites. And it's one of the reasons and one of the things that makes CCU incredibly unique. CCU shall impact our culture in support of traditional family values, sanctity of life, compassion for the poor, biblical view of human nature, limited government, personal freedom, free markets, natural law, original intent of the Constitution, and Western civilization. That's one of our strategic objectives. That's incredible. Focusing on limited government, focusing on personal freedom and free markets as a way to impact our culture for the good, that is almost, not quite, but almost wholly unique to Colorado Christian University. This is a unique place. And these are crucial ideas. Okay, so the numbers are great. They look good. Our stats are good. The mission and the strategic objectives of this place are excellent. They really are. The real story of CCU is the story of our students. We heard from Anel earlier today. She grew up in Estonia. She wasn't exposed to the gospel until she was a teenager. And at that time, she was going through a tough time at home, and she was looking for some answers. She found them through a guest speaker from the United States who was in Estonia, Mark. He's also an adjunct professor at CCU. So Mark suggests to Anel, how about if you travel 5,000 miles across the ocean and go to college in Colorado? Because this actually had been a lifelong dream for Anel. Who knew? Well, she could only dimly see how that might happen, but she trusted God. And after a journey full of stops and starts, Anel arrived at CCU. And here God's hand was evident. Professors have helped her. Students befriended her. She has earned a 4.0 GPA. Yes, very good. She majored in youth ministry, and her time at CCU has shaped her vision, or maybe more correctly, made God's vision for her evident to her, to continue working with youth, exposing them to the life-changing gospel of Jesus Christ. So the vision and the hope of CCU is to take students like Anel, students with energy and passion, and equip them to become leaders in our neighborhoods, in our state, in our world. We believe that a true encounter with Christ will never leave our students where they are, but will call them to serve on the front lines of his kingdom. Or let's take Katie Miller. Katie's from Monument, Colorado, and she came to the College of Undergraduate Studies. She didn't have much of a plan. She wasn't sure what she was going to do. She wasn't even sure if God had a plan for her. But after some time here, she chose to be an accounting major, and she didn't want to simply land an interview with any firm. Katie was looking for a job with a top accounting firm, so armed with mentoring from her professors, she proved that students at CCU can compete with much larger schools by getting not one, but 2 job offers from top accounting firms, one of which she accepted, and she'll be starting soon after graduation this year. Soon she'll be auditing major nonprofit organizations like Compassion International, Young Life, serving them as a Christian counterpart, a person who knows that what God wants above all else is for his people to earnestly seek him. She's done that not only with her heart, but also with her mind. So these stories, they happen every day at CCU. These are just 2. We expose students to the risen Christ who turns their lives upside down. In doing this, we're part of a larger story that's been going on for the last 2,000 years, that whenever men and women learn about Jesus, they seek to learn about his world. And they take the first biblical commandment seriously, to have dominion over the earth and to learn about all of creation and care for it. But Colorado Christian University's story is at a moment of change. As we bump up against our centennial, we're in our 99th year at CCU. We find ourselves with outdated facilities and inadequate spaces for our students. We need a change when our students have studied for years in modular buildings that were designed to be gone long ago. We need a change to accommodate a burgeoning pre-med major. We need a change when our chapel doubles as our gymnasium. We need a change when our office spaces are spread around the city of Lakewood. We need a change because one of our strategic objectives is to become a great university, and great universities have buildings that attract top students and top faculty, and great universities have spaces that foster engagement and equipment that supports learning. We need to change because we want the next chapter of CCU's story to prepare us for the next 100 years. We want students like Katie and like Anel to continue to flock here, to have their lives transformed by what happens at Colorado Christian University. And so we've set out to completely redevelop our Lakewood campus, and you can see on the screen. We hope to do this over the next 8 years. The cost for this total campus redevelopment will be in excess of $120 million. And we anticipate that through the generosity of our friends and alumni, many of you here today who've already given significant gifts, our Faith, Family, Freedom campaign will generate more than $55 million in charitable gifts in the next 8 years. And God willing, less than 8 years. This is an architectural rendering of the first new building that will be built as part of our Faith, Family, Freedom campaign. It is an approximately 43,000 square foot academic building. It has more square footage in classrooms and faculty offices than we currently have on our entire campus. Yes. And I suspect that it was a faculty member who actually started that clap, because I've heard President Armstrong say before that some of our faculty members' offices are so small that they have to step outside of the office to change their mind. We will break ground on this first new building in June of this year, and we are excited about the places that the Lord is taking CCU. This first new building and ultimately this $120 million project will give CCU what it needs to compete and to continue its story far into the 21st century, a state-of-the-art campus with room to grow that attracts serious scholars and world changers. And with a redesigned campus, our reach will go even farther. More students translates to more Anels and more Katies, more dynamic stories. And this is why the time has come to focus on the next 100 years of CCU's story. We want to build into the long legacy of this wonderful school, and we want to be a part of thousands of students' lives that have gone before us and that will come in the next 100 years. These students will start nonprofits. They'll work ethically and innovatively in business. They will lead in our churches. They will perform surgeries. They will teach our children. They will change the world as they help others experience the kingdom of God on earth. Thank you.